Hi, this is Liz Haas with our virtual trade show. We're streaming live from our workshop. We want to welcome you to session 4. I have a full segment planned for you today. We're going to talk about personalizing spirit bottles, wine bottles. Think about those holidays, the special occasions, personalizing them and selling them. Become an engraving service with your sandblaster. We're also going to get into painting the personalized bottle as well as painting our granite piece. We ran out of time last week and I wasn't able to paint our granite, but we're going to do that today. We also have a special guest, April Willis from our custom mask department. And last week, it was her first time with us. She was able to join us in giving us some tips on artwork for sandblasted pieces. So she's with us today talking about personalizing spirit bottles, the government warning label. She has a lot of information, some tips for us. We're going to make a mask. We're going to blast, paint. We're going to go over a little bit of maintenance with our 2034 or our 1924 cabinet. So thank you again for joining us, and apologize for that delay. We had a little bit of difficulty getting started, but we're up and running. And I just want to thank you. So let's get started. What we have today is we have a spirit bottle. And let's talk about these bottles. A lot of times, these are great for gifts. Now, however, most of us, we do not have a liquor license, so we cannot sell the alcohol. But what we can do is our customer can bring us the bottle and we can become an etching service and sell a personalized piece. And this is a great way to personalize the bottle, make it custom for your customer. Think about like birthdays, anniversaries, and this is where you can actually tap into your creative side to come up with a design for a bottle. So you can see here, I have a couple of bottles here that April actually did the artwork for. This is actually a label reproduction. So it's taking the label and then creating artwork from it and then blasting it. I'm going to turn this around so you can kind of just see all that. And it's really hard to see with all the small text there, but it's all there. It's very small, very detailed, but it's exactly like the printed label with a couple minor adjustments. And then here we have our Detroit City gin, and on the back it's a reverse. So you have the background blasted, you have it painted, and you can tell there's a little bit of a sparkle there. We did put a spray of glitter over it, and that glitter just kind of brightens up and creates a different look for this piece. But when you're personalizing bottles, I mean, you can use different color paints, you can get creative with the artwork, you can use jewels, glitter. It's endless what you can do. You have a sandblaster, you're engraving depth, you're blasting depth, and that just opens up all kinds of possibilities for you to get creative with your bottles. So let's start with making a mask. So right here, I have my stencil, and this has already been washed out. Okay, so we're going to place this stencil on the bottle. But before I do that, I am going to wash it out. So I have it, I'm going to expose it, wash it out, and then we're going to come over to mask application. So come with me to our electrolyte unit. And I have this printed artwork here. And now I know a lot of you, or not a lot of you, but a few of you have some issues. You're just getting started washing out the stencil, the artwork. Maybe it's the artwork, maybe it's the process. But let's go over a few tips when it comes to washing out your photoresist stencil. Number one is you want to use an approved print film. So I have our inkjet film, and our inkjet film, it's a premium inkjet film. It's clear, it's going to give you the best resolution possible when it comes to you making your stencil. So you're going to run this sheet through your printer. We prefer inkjet printing because you can change the settings, you can output the most ink, so you can have an opaque print. Now you have to remember, what's key here is an opaque print. That's key, your artwork, and it has to be 100% black. So let's take a look here. I went over this last week. You want to make sure, here's a tip, place that print film over the top of your light, turn it on, and do you see any light passing through your artwork? And it may be hard to tell, but this is a good way to test your print. If you're having issues washing out your stencil, it could be because you have a light print from the artwork side, it's not 100% black, or your settings are not 100% correct. So let's go ahead and get started on making our stencil today. So, okay, now I do have a video. We do have a video if you go to our YouTube channel, and there is a video that is for our Epson printers, the Epson HD XP 15000, as well as the Epson Artisan 1430. So if you have a Mac or a PC, you can go ahead and click those links, and it'll give you some directions and settings for that printer. Okay, so let me put this back. So you can tell what I've done here is I've cut a piece of film. I don't need to use a full sheet for these two stencils. Okay, so I've cut my photoresist down. I placed it back in my bag here, and this is important, the side that you're placing your mask on. So you have your shiny side down, and then you're going to place your artwork down. Okay, so this is going to transfer over. We're going to take our cylinder, and we're just going to clip it into our blanket. And then we're going to bring this up. Now, here's something that's important. Do you see how tight this electrolyte blanket almost looks too short for the cylinder? But it's not. It's perfect. I want to stretch it over and clip it in place. And what this is doing is it's compressing my artwork to my photoresist stencil, giving me the best possible resolution possible for this. So let me set my timer here. I'm a little delayed here. And we'll stop it at about 17 seconds. So it's a 20-second burn. That's very important. You don't need to go over. Just stick to 20 seconds. And once we have 20 seconds, we're going to turn this off. If you're doing a lot of pieces, I would recommend connecting this to a power strip and then turning it off through the power strip. Okay, so I'm going to undo this blanket. And now I have my design here. I just need to wash it out. So we're going to wash this out. We're going to let it dry, but we're going to get started with our current piece here. Okay, I'm going to place my magnet, and shiny side is against the board. Matte side is facing me. I'm using my hand sprayer and my metal washout board. And the hand sprayer connects to our faucet. It also comes with an adapter. So you can, if you have a different faucet size, you can use the adapter to connect your hose here. So I'm going to turn on the hot water all the way. Hot water is best. Okay. And this is important. Stay about 1 to 2 inches from the mask. If you're washing way out here, about 8 to 10 inches, that mask will never wash. It's going to take too long, and what happens is the mask becomes saturated with water, and then your lines can start to shift. The idea is to get in and out of the wash cycle as quickly as possible. So just nice, even strokes. All right. And then you want to keep the film out of the sunlight. So UV light will expose the film very quickly. So you can start to see our design turn white. That blue photoresist is dissolving. Now, if we had a light print, or if I expose too long, what happens is my wash time it increases. So we want to have a quick wash time. An opaque print is the key there. And there we go. So that is completely washed. We're going to remove this from the board. So I'm just going to lift this up. I'm going to take my sheet here. And you have your design that's completely washed. So we're looking at that happy birthday and then the 1970, the established, very thin lines there, but it's going to look great sandblasted. We're going to let this dry, and we'll come back to this piece. So we're going to let that air dry. So now let's take a look at our bottle. So we have an Angel's Envy bottle here, and I have a pillow, and these pillows are really nice to become like a little holder. So you can hold your bottle, place your bottle, it kind of holds it and cradles it, so it allows you to place that stencil on there without you having to struggle with holding the bottle. Okay? And the way that April created this artwork was at this top line, and I have this piece here. So this line right here is supposed to fit right underneath the angel's envy. So that's my alignment line. And that's how as long as I line this top line to the bottom of this text, my mask will fit perfectly in this bottle, for this bottle. Okay, so now I'm going to take this. Another tip for having an alignment is you can take a tool, and I have this right here. One of our customers created this. And you can take a water-based Sharpie. It has to be water-based. It removes easily when you clean your bottle. And you can create an alignment line. Now what's key is a very fine tip. You don't want to use a fat tip. It just makes a big mess. But you can put it on the step, and then you can put the bottle and just kind of slide it. And now you have an alignment line. So you can adjust this different ways and different steps, and you just set that pin, and then you can create your alignment line. But what's key is a fine tip, water-based Sharpie, and that will work great for aligning your stencil. I always like to take my stencil here, and I like to create a little pull tab. And you can see I just pinch the corner. This is the sticky side. And I just pinch the corner back on the sticky side, creating a little pull tab. And I'm just going to lightly separate that. And then I'm going to take my cleaner here. We're going to clean that bottle. I'm going to wipe it clean. And now we're going to align our stencil. We're going to take our squeegee and squeegee this mask down. I'm using a 4mm today for this bottle. So we're using a 4mm SR3000 film. Oops, there we go. Okay. And another tool I like to use are these little rubber rollers here, and you can also use this to squeegee your mask. It's another tool I like to use. We're going to take our wire wheel roller, or our brush here. See that little air bubble? I don't know if you can see that right there. But it's fine if it's outside the design. If it's right up next to that little line, then I want to make sure I get rid of that. But you're not going to have any blast through when it comes to air bubbles. You just want them away from your design. And there you go. So this is good. Now let's talk about protecting the label. So if you're dealing with a paper label, you need to protect that label. So I have a paper label here. I don't want to put tape over that, because when I peel up the tape, the label is going to come up with it. So you want to make sure that this is protected. The top part of your cork, if you're dealing with a wine bottle, is protected as well. I'm going to remove the tag. And another tool I'm going to use is I'm going to use my shrink wrap. And shrink wrap is really nice when you're dealing with bottles, wine bottles, spirit bottles, because it's inexpensive, but it also protects your label. So I have a label on this side and a label on this side. So I'm going to apply my bottle down. I'm going to lay it down. And I'm going to bring up my shrink wrap to right about here. Now what's important here when you're dealing with shrink wrap is that you need a space of glass for the tape to grab onto. If I were to bring my shrink wrap up to this area and then put my tape, what happens is that the tape is going to start to lift up. So I want to make sure that there's a space here for the tape to grab onto. Now I'm going to take my shrink wrap and kind of bring it over. So now my labels are protected, as well as the cork. And it's just protected from the sand and protected from the tape that I'm going to use. This tape is our vinyl tape. It's our vinyl sandblast tape. And I'm going to apply this here. Okay. And I'm just going to tape the top. Now, shrink wrap is not sand resistant. So what happens if you're blasting and I'm going all the way up to the top, this will be etched. So you need to have nozzle control if you're applying a small amount of tape on your bottle. So I need to just blast in this area. If I go all the way up, this will be etched. Or if I go all the way down, this will be etched. So you need to know yourself. You need to know your blasting pattern. For the sake of the video, I'm going to put an extra piece of tape here. Okay, and so now this is ready to sandblast. We're going to sandblast it and we're going to paint it. And then we're going to get into our artwork. So let's go ahead and put this in the sandblaster. And today we are using our 2034 cabinet, but I'm going to go over the nozzles real quick. Now in session, I believe it was 2, we talked about nozzles. Now this is a 3/32 nozzle. This is what I use about 90% of the time, probably more like 98% of the time. I often get asked the question, when do I know it's time to change out my nozzle? So what I have here is I have a 3/32 drill bit. Okay, if you can drop this drill bit down into that nozzle, I don't know if you can see that, then you know that it's worn. So right now this is a perfect size. Okay, I cannot fit it in this area here, but I'm going to take a worn nozzle and let's see here. So I have some worn nozzles here. So now let me drop this down. And can you see that, how that drops down? A little bit of wiggle room, not too much, but I know that this is larger than a 3/32. Now I'm going to take this drill bit, drop it into this very worn nozzle, and you can see there's a lot of wiggle room. And so this nozzle definitely is not a 3/32. It's not even a 1/8. It definitely is worn and needs to be replaced. What happens when you have a worn nozzle to this extent, you have more air and sand fighting to overtake the stream. That gives you an inconsistent blast stream. So you want to be careful when you want to take a look at your nozzles and make sure that they're not worn. Get a 3/32 drill bit, and that's easy for you to take a look and see if you have a worn nozzle. I am going to grab a glove because I am painting, so I'm going to grab one of my gloves. All right, I'm going to turn this on. And today we are blasting just under 40 pounds of pressure. I'm using a 4mm mask. So I like, for the 4mm, I have a range from 30 to about 45. We're going to stick just under 40 pounds. So I'm going to take my bottle, I'm going to take my step on the pedal. I have my sand stream here, 90-degree angle, very important. You want to be straight on to the mask. Okay. And we're just going to go over the design. My nozzle will stay on the mask. I'm not going to go outside of my mask area. And the blasting on this is very quick. We are just about done here. Let's take a look at it. And you can see I have a little bit of depth, the Jackson. You can see the lettering there. This looks very good for a 4mm. The depth for this, I'm going to just do one more pass. Nice and slow. Here we go. Go over these letters. You want the depth. That's the sandblasted look. People are going to feel that depth. All right, we are done. I'm going to take my air gun. I'm just going to blow off the abrasive before we paint. Okay. So now we have our etched bottle. And now we're going to get into painting. So let's come over to our paint booth. And we have two items that we're going to be painting. Let me step over here. We're going to remove our glass here. And if you remember, the bottle had like a cream text to it. So I did try to do some color matching, and I'm using the Nature White for this piece so it kind of matches, so the personalization will match the label. I did take some time shaking this beforehand, but you always want to make sure that you shake the candles well, okay? So you want to shake them, swirl them. Very important, 5 to 8 minutes. The manufacturer says 8 minutes. You want to shake the cans of paint before you paint. But I'm told we have some questions, so let's step over here. What nail place is still open in California right now? Oh boy. I don't think I'm supposed to tell, but in Escondido, my lady opened up for me. Gotta have the nails done. Okay, use the other end of the drill bit. The cutting end will ream out of your nozzle. Okay, so great tip, thank you. What grit are we using? We're using 150 grit for the bottles. Okay, so 150 grit. Okay, so it says here, I think okay, how do you remove the label from the full bottle? So it just depends. If you're dealing with a paper label, you want to use, what we like to use is like a cloth or like a white napkin, a thick napkin, put some acetone on it and lay it over the top of the label, and then you can get a clean razor and scrape off the label. You want to make sure there's some moisture on that bottle so you don't scratch the bottle. And then you can also use, it depends what kind of label, but when you're dealing with the warning label, you do not want to remove that. We're not allowed to. If your customer wants blasting in that area, have them remove it. That way you're not liable for anything. So have them remove that label, give you the bottle to do the engraving. All right, so let's come back here. Okay, we talked about shaking the cans well. I'm using a gold dot skinny cap. Okay, I love these caps right here. They're gold dot skinny from artprimo.com, and they work great with the Molotow paints as well as the Montana paints. You want to shake it well, do a test spray. You want to make sure there's no spitting. Okay, I am going to turn on our vent here. I have my LED bar. I have my paint booth ready to go. What's key here is short sprays. Okay, you want to do short sprays from different angles. Just going to turn the bottle here to the side. And that saran wrap is also protecting your bottle from the paint. Okay, so we're just going to kind of come over this area. I often see people when they're painting, is they're way back here painting. That paint is just not going to get on that bottle. You're going to be painting for a long period of time. So you want to be close, short sprays. Okay. Here's what people do as well is they'll just stay on that nozzle. Look at all that paint that is on that piece of tape right now. You want to do short sprays. Short sprays. Examine your bottle just to make sure that all the areas are painted. Okay. If you need to speed up the dry time, take your hair dryer. Okay. And apply a little bit of heat to it to speed up that drying process. Okay. All right. We're going to let this bottle sit and dry, but I'm also going to get to my granite piece. Now let's talk about granite. Back, I think it was 2 sessions ago, we talked about different mill thicknesses, and we had a 6 mil on a granite. I blasted it. We're going to paint it. So this is still the same piece that has 6 mil on it. We blasted it. I haven't painted it yet. We ran out of time. So this is a 6 mil mask here, and I'm going to apply it to my granite piece. In case you've missed it on the last session, just going to remove my cover paper here. This was already pre-done, and this is a 6 mil. It has glue on this side, so you would brush on glue or spray on glue, and we're just going to apply it to the granite piece. 6 mil on granite is great because 6 mil is a very durable photoresist film. It allows you to blast deep, it allows you to blast at higher pressure, and it allows you to use a coarser grit. So you're speeding up, you're increasing the blasting process, you're speeding that process up by going to a coarser grit and increasing your blasting pressure. So I'm going to take my squeegee, and you want to apply pressure here. And then you will remove that clear liner. I'm just going to use my fingernail here. Just remove that liner. There we go. Okay, so we have I do have some air bubbles in there. And so I'm going to take my wire wheel roller. I'm just going to roll right over it. And then now I can etch this. Apply tape, of course, etch it, and then you can paint it. So now we have this same design on granite that has already been blasted. So now let's go ahead and add paint. The paint that I'm using is stone tone paint, and it's a paint that's designed for natural stone, and it's warranted for outdoors. So you can use it on tiles, you can use it pavers, granite. It's a great paint, and it's perfect because it's quick, it dries fast, and it's very durable. However, it's a high pressure paint, so that paint comes out pretty fast. You want to make sure that you shake the can well, but this is where you need to have nozzle control, short sprays. That's a lot of paint, high pressure paint. You have to have good nozzle control, just short sprays. Okay, there's no reason for you to keep your finger on that nozzle painting, just short sprays. You can already see that brightening up. Let's turn it, we'll go at a different angle. I can see a little bit of area right in here that's not painted. Okay, let's take a look at that. That looks really good. Turn it. I think I see a little bit of a side wall there that needs some painting. Perfect. So now we're going to let this dry. Once it's dry, we're going to remove the masking, and you can see what that finished piece looks, what it looks like along with our bottle. Okay, so let me turn off this fan. Okay, 6 mil is also perfect for tile. So I have here the tile. I pulled it out in the first session. Again, a tile blasting nice, and you're able to blast nice and deep with the 6 mil, and then you're able to get the detail. So most people would weed this. If they're a monument shop, they're going to use vinyl. This is where Photoresist comes in handy. You're saving time from weeding. Okay, so now we're going to turn our attention over to April, and we're going to go over some artwork for this particular bottle. So I'm going to step over to her. Here we go. Thank you for coming.
Hi.
All right.
Hello, everyone.
So we have April from our custom mass department, and she's receiving your orders. Sometimes she's asked to create artwork from scratch, or someone sends you images. So let's talk about this bottle. I see the bottle here.
Yes.
So how did you create the artwork here?
Okay, so my when you came to me and asked me to do an artwork piece with this bottle, my first impression was, okay, well, maybe I should just go and scan it and see what I come up with from there.
Okay.
So I see that there's a font up here. I see that there's this font. There's 3 different fonts on this bottle, maybe 4. So what I did was try to kind of match those fonts, and I by scanning the bottle, I got the exact measurement of the bottle. I scanned it at 100% through our scanner.
Okay.
I got the exact measurement of the bottle, and this right here will allow you to see, if you blow it up just a little bit, will allow you to see where your framing is, and it'll also give you an overall view of what you're trying to match.
So you've scanned in the bottle. That's
Yes.
a great idea. Scanning it in at 100%?
100%.
100%. So
Yes.
now you've created your own template.
Yes, I created my own template, and
Very nice.
I just kind of wanted to see what it was going to look like by playing with it and see what would look best. So what I did was I wanted to kind of match this font, and this font, you can tell it's a signature.
A signature,
It's a
right.
signature, so you're not going to find a font for that.
Okay.
The thing I did to kind of match that was, again, as we discussed last week, I went to defont.com.
Defont.com, that's right.
Yes.
Yes.
And I typed in signature
So
fonts.
so you're doing a filter for signature.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
doing a filter up here for signature fonts because I don't really know what's going to come up, and I could search calligraphy or handwritten, but it might take me a little longer.
Sure.
So I know I want a signature style font. That's a good thing about defont.com as well.
Yeah.
So I searched that,
Okay.
and again, the category came up where it has all these styles of signatures. And so I just took the font, downloaded it into my system, and the font that I was looking for,
So
or
you
that I
actually
liked.
typed in the letter or the name Lincoln, which is the first name of the signature.
I did. Oh, yes, I did. I typed in Lincoln just to see how it would match.
Which Lincoln is the first name on the bottle.
On the bottle. And I just kind of scrolled through to see what I liked, what I didn't like. There was a lot of pages to look through, so I just kind of found the first one that I came across that I liked and appealed to me.
Okay. So we
So-
have our font. You downloaded it.
Right.
Okay.
So now I'm going to go into, or I went to Illustrator, and that's where I got this font from.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure the name of this font because I've already created it to outlines. However,
I love the established.
I have it in, and I have it in red because I just want to be able to see it at first, and then I can show you how to change that to black to make sure that it's on your screen properly.
That would be great. Yes.
So,
okay. So we
or so
have
that's
happy
on your
birthday. We have our
film.
name.
Yes. So we have happy birthday.
Did you have to do any? Did you have to fix this font, the happy birthday text? Did you have to add a stroke or anything like that, or was it?
Yeah.
good?
So when I typed it out, I remember what font it was. So happy birthday. When I typed it out, changed it to my font. There's several different ways you can do that in Illustrator. I remembered the name.
Okay. So we have our font here.
So I have my font. I kind of made it the size that I would make it for this bottle. And if you can see, it's not too thin, but it's kind of thin, and you kind of want you want everybody to know it's happy birthday to Jackson Phillips. So.
Right. And I'm seeing the R, like the BIR, and that R has a little
Right.
loop in there.
Right. So the R has a little loop in here, and which is still kind of in here, but that's probably gonna disappear when you go to engrave it. So it is best to I just remove it by clicking a couple of times. Click that, or I could get my direct select tool
And then
do
you're
it that
just
way.
closing it up. So
I'm
you're
just
filling
closing it up. Yes.
Okay.
So I've just filled it. Now I did add a slight stroke on it because it is kind of thin,
So
and I did that.
But you also created to outlines, and then you added the stroke?
Yes, I
Okay.
created this font to outlines because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to close any of these little areas up too
Okay.
much. So
And from last session, creating it to outlines means you're turning it in from text
from text to shape.
to shapes. Okay.
Yes, so
Just in
you're going
case
to
you
lose
missed
the
that,
ability.
that was our session
Yeah.
last week, but you've created this
Right,
to outlines.
right.
Okay.
And I made my own mistake of saving the font, not saving the font.
So you want to
Okay,
save the text,
yes,
or you
save the text.
save the text off the
Yes.
artboard, and then that way if you have a
If you-
misspelling or a mistake,
exactly,
you can
want to go back to it.
Okay. Because you can't undo.
You can't undo once you've changed it created it to outlines or converted to curves.
Right.
So I just added a 0.35 stroke on this.
Okay.
Because
0.35. Okay.
Yeah, I played around a little with them. 0.5 was too thick. 0.15 was too small. 0.2 was okay. So I just went up one little point longer, and
Okay.
it actually does make a difference. Even though it's a slight point change, it makes a difference.
And the
So-
goal is that once we've blasted it, but we painted, that paint kind of stands out. And you can,
The paint will stick in there better. Everything will just work nicer. So I'm going to change this to black. There's several different ways in Illustrator to do however you're comfortable with. I'm more comfortable with using this.
so let's talk about artwork. Artwork, it must be 100% black from your graphic program. So it doesn't matter if you're using CorelDRAW, Inkscape, or if you're using Illustrator.
Right.
You need to make sure that artwork is 100% black, because your everything starts with our artwork. So to make a mask properly, and you want to make sure you have 100% black artwork. Then we go to our printer settings to adjust those settings to have the opaque print, and that's going to help you to make a mask quicker. You're going to have less time in the wash time. So now you're going to show us an important part of converting it to
right,
black,
making
100%
sure
black.
it's 100%
Okay.
black. So I have two panels. I have this one. I have one up in the upper right corner, just because that's how I arranged my tools.
So up in the upper right-hand
my color
corner,
palette.
your color palette, yes.
If you hover over anything in Illustrator, it's going to show you what it is.
And you're in
So
CMYK mode.
I'm in CMYK. Actually, I'm in. Sorry.
So now we're in CMYK.
We're in CMYK, and all I did was go to the menu and change it to CMYK.
Okay. And that's also available in Corel.
Yes.
Just making sure you're not in RGB mode, but in CMYK mode.
Right. So I want to go. I want to go and change this to 100% black.
Okay.
So all I'm going to do is click. They have fill none, fill black, and fill white.
Okay.
So I'm going to select fill black. You see, I still have that red outline because
Yes.
that's the stroke line.
I see.
So I also want to click on the stroke line and change that to black as well.
Oh, well. Yes.
So now I'm going to scroll out just a little bit. Come up. I'm going to select all of my fills. I'm going to select these fills because I know there's no stroke on these. So
Okay.
I'm just going to select those and make those black as well. If you're ever wondering, you can look at your panels. You'll see in the color palette panel, there's no stroke. There's no stroke up here, and there's no stroke up here. Now this box with the outer white is your stroke.
Okay.
The box that's completely filled is your fill.
Is your fill. So
It's
we
your fill
have
color.
we have a line through it, there's no stroke.
Right, right. So there's no stroke. And if I didn't have a fill, there would be a no line in my fill.
Right.
So, let's see. And now I'm going to change this also to 100%, as well as my border.
I'm starting to see the established a little more for recognizing
Yes.
a birthday instead of like celebrating like
So-
50 or 30.
Right.
And I can't believe 1970 is a 50-year-old. Can you believe that? We're 1970 and it's already someone is turning 50. Thank God I wasn't born in 1970. Someone's telling me to look in the mirror. No. All right, and I notice you have a divider text as well.
Yes. Oh, okay. So the divider text, I actually Google searched for this one. I didn't use, like we discussed last week, using your brushes, which
Right.
you can. I just didn't find one that I liked for this project. So I Google searched for text dividers, and I found something similar to what I wanted to see on this bottle. The one that I Googled, I changed because even the one I Googled, I changed because I didn't really care for it too much. So all I did was just add a diamond
Okay.
in the middle. And how I did that was I took my star tool,
Your star tool.
which is in my toolbar.
Okay. Yeah. Right. The rectangle tool.
Right,
the
and you
ellipse
get
tool.
the rectangle
Mhm.
tool. You have a little drop-down menu. Anytime you see the little triangles in the corner, you have a drop-down menu. Chose my star tool, and I click once to get however many points of the star that I want.
Okay.
I only wanted 3. This is just a simple way that I have developed to do
To get a shape.
a perfect diamond or a good diamond. So I'm going to copy this. Shift and Alt will copy straight and copy. I'll let go of my mouse. Transform. Rotate. I also have the ability to manually rotate, but I'm going to do it this way. Oh. Sorry, I did that yesterday too.
Rotating. There you
Rotate
go.
Another 90. It should have been 180. Sorry for all you mathematicians out there. And now I'm going to, actually I'm not even really going to worry about.
But that's how you got the center.
Right.
The little point, your diamond in
And
that
if you
center of the
notice,
border.
if you notice my, just going to center that, make sure it's centered. And if you notice, yeah, that's how I got it. I just sized it and placed it over that. So that was just my quick way.
Just tapping into your creative side. I also loved how you had it in red because that image, the artwork really stood out
It
on
stood
the
out
bottle.
until I'm ready to actually place it to
Yeah.
print. Sometimes that helps me to see things a little better, either red or pink.
So scanning in the bottle at 100% to get that template and then creating the artwork inside that open area so that you can have your personalized piece.
Right.
All right, that looks
So
great.
Yeah, so then this is actually ready to print. I could just move it to my printer and I'm ready to go.
So you would print it from an artboard and then print it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now what she did tell me, if you look at the top border where that's aligned underneath that text. So
Yeah.
that's what she told me. She goes, that's your alignment line. So you can use a border in your artwork then that can be your alignment line. So if you have it just directly under the text like she did here,
Right.
then that was a perfect way for me to make sure my mask is straight.
Also, one more thing is you want to always make sure that you center everything. Make sure you always recenter. And there's ways to do that. Right now I'm just going to center it to the selection because I don't want it to move all the way to my board. So I just want to make sure that everything was centered.
Okay.
That's really important because I see a lot of things come through that are not centered, and I constantly have to contact our customers to make sure that it's supposed to be that way.
Make sure
And
it's all
a lot of
centered.
times it's not. So just a little tip.
Great.
So-
So I know that you deal a lot with customers that send in artwork for label reproduction. And so there's some tips that you have on the government warning label, which
Oh,
is on
yes.
every single bottle of alcohol.
Yes.
You have a government warning label. So
Yes.
let's talk about that.
Okay, so I have the artwork that I had created for the bottles that you were showing.
the gin.
The gin bottle. Again, I did take the scan because this was really important for me to keep the text the same size. Again, keeping the text the same size, sometimes you have to ever so slightly tweak it just to make sure that it's going to blast well. Because if you printed labels are a lot different than sand carving labels because you have a lot more flexibility and thin lines, and whereas sand carving you can't really get all of that unless you
Right,
go
and
to
you
a
have
free mill.
depth and you want to
Right,
make
and
sure
you want to
that
make sure you get that depth.
what's important, it has to be legible.
It has to be legible, yes. It's very important that it's legible. Normally, these are done as gifts, so it's not something that's sold. They're usually done as gifts. However, we do have companies that sell them, so it's really important to keep to the size of the label as much as you can or as close as you can, according to government regulations and rules and things like that. Is what I've learned over the course of research and things like that. So I did keep this one the same size. I scanned my bottle in at 100%, and I did the same thing, and this was all in red or pink or whatever I had before. This was a ready label. So I did have to create a lot of this artwork from scratch, which was fun. So
how did you determine the font?
Okay, so determining the fonts, there's several different ways. There's a website called Font Finder or Find My Font or
Font Finder or Find My Fonts?
yeah.
Okay.
There's websites such like that where you could take a picture. I could blow this up or zoom in and take this picture of one of these words and upload it to that website, and then it'll give a list of fonts that could be, and then
Okay.
you just choose the closest one.
That's sounds
a-
easy.
Yeah, sounds easy.
Versus
Sometimes it's a lot more research than that.
Okay.
I think Photoshop has a match font option as well, so I use that now as well. And so yeah, that's how you could find a font that's existing. You can even take a picture. The cool thing about that website is you can even take a picture of something you see anywhere, upload it to that website, and it'll find that font for you.
Nice.
So it's really nice.
That's a good tip. Thank you.
Yeah. So I've done that, and okay, so I've done that, and I have it in both ways that you showed. Our
Positive and then it blasted away the background.
Right.
negative.
So the negative background, the reason why this you see a larger border around the negative.
So here's our negative image.
Now-
and then I'll show you.
The reason that there is a larger border around the black background right here that you see on my screen, you'll see that this border is going to be the masking line. Anything you see white will be
this
masked.
border.
Anything
So
you see black is.
So we don't see that border. It's just
You
more
don't
the
see that
outline.
border. That's the outline. That's your cut line. That's
Okay.
You always want to make sure that especially if you're doing a negative image, that you have an outline around that piece, because that's going to give you your
Ability
that mask.
to separate the carrier.
It's going to be exactly, so it's a beyond point so that you can have that ability to separate.
So she created a thicker outline.
Yeah.
Because we have no mask here, we're blasting away the background.
Mhm.
So you need to be able to have a mask area so you can separate that clear liner when you're dealing with a
Right.
negative image.
Right.
Good tip.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's why it looks larger. But
right.
we have it both ways. We have, the only thing that I did different to this government warning label is you'll notice from the original here is that I did put a slight stroke on this so that it would come through a little better. It just so happened that it worked better in a negative image for this piece than it did for the positive image.
Okay.
And sometimes you'll find that that's
So doing a
how it
slight
is.
stroke. So let's take a
Yeah.
look at this bottle here. This is where you did a slight stroke on this
Yes,
one?
I did a slight stroke on that one. You can
And
still
let me
see it's very
grab the
thin.
pillow here so you can see the back. And hopefully that shows up a little bit better for you. But seeing that small text, because you're really trying to keep exactly to the actual label.
Right.
The government warnings all in caps. I
Right.
noticed that the Surgeon General, the first letter is in caps. So I know
Right.
there's a couple
So-
items.
Right. So when in certain research I was doing, there's websites out there that will tell you the regulations for the government label. There's quite a bit.
So just do a Google
so
search.
Do a Google search for rules and regulations on government labels for alcohol
Okay.
containers. The sizing of text has to be considered against size of bottle and ounces, and there's
So
a
you're
lot
dealing
of
with a
rules and
small little
regulations.
bottle.
Yeah.
That
So-
that text is going to be a lot smaller.
Right.
Okay.
And one of the websites I found was Bottle Your Brand. That was one website that I found that explains a lot of all the information. It's not necessarily, I don't believe it's a certain font, but it has to be completely legible. It has to be a certain size for each bottle, and it has to be, and it just follow those.
Well, thank you, April. I'm going to make sure we don't have any questions for you. I'm going to step
Yes.
over to our panel over here, the monitor, and then we're going to clean our bottles. And so let me just see here. Hi, Stephanie. How are you? What are some tips when drying the SR3000 mask? When I air dry my mask, it's not always sticky. Sure. So I can relate to that sometimes. The SR3000, if you're, it's really temperamental when it comes to, like, if your area is very dry, that mask can feel dry. Or if you leave it out overnight, that mask can also feel dry. So I actually brought with me cover paper. So we'll go over a couple things here. Cover paper is sold in like a 25-foot roll, 100-foot roll. It's really inexpensive. You have a shiny side. You want to use a shiny side. We're going to take our dried sheet. Now, it's not 100% dry. As you can see, I have a little bit of a wet spot here. You can actually take a hair dryer and you can speed up that dry time. So I'm going to turn on my, so you could do that, kind of speed up that time, kind of shake off that extra moisture and let it dry. It'll dry a little faster. If you're dealing with it not sticking well, you can take a chamois, you can take a cloth that's kind of thick, like a t-shirt, something that's lint-free, wet it, lay it down on your table, and then you're going to take that stencil and blot it against that moistened towel. But you want to make sure it's lint-free, and that once you do that, it's going to reactivate the adhesive. It's going to bring that moisture back into that adhesive. You want to cover it with cover paper. Once it's dry, just cover it, and that will allow that mask to kind of stay sticky against that cover paper. And then you can use your paper cutter or a trimmer to trim down your stencils, or you can go old school and use scissors. Let's see here.
Those government labels, I suggest yes.
4 mil.
Yes, 4 mil is probably a really good mil thickness for that, because
Okay.
it's just thin enough and it's just thick enough to still get that edge.
Good. Thank you. Okay, so Erin. Hi, Erin. This is, I use what font to identify fonts? What's the font to identify fonts? So is it what website you're using to identify fonts?
Usually, when I look up Font Finder,
So she said the font finder or find the font. Hi, Dennis.
it's
See
called
you.
What the Font.
What the font? Okay. Be careful with that.
I know.
What the font, and that will help you identify the fonts there.
Yes.
Okay, so someone says here, Jasper, how you doing? They let their mill dry on a cardboard. Okay, so kind of trying to speed up that drying process. Hanging it will speed it up. A dryer, we have film dryers, but when it comes to dryers, you just want to make sure you don't leave it in there for longer than it needs to be. If you have a dryer or you're using a hair dryer, you can over dry it. So you just want to make sure that once it's one solid color, that it's dry, and that then you can apply it to the cover paper. Okay, so I think that's it. So here, let me see if I have any other questions. So drying, you can air dry, you can hang it, you can shake off the excess moisture. Doing this, okay, so it doesn't always stick well to camera. Okay, so if you're dealing with like a tumbler, like applying that stencil, we do have, you can use a brush-on adhesive. Be happy to send you some samples of some finished masks. If you're looking for any type of trying a different mill, let me know. We'll send you some samples. Hit us up on the Facebook or YouTube, or just email us. It says here, do you spray? Hi Jim, how you doing? Okay, so it says here, do you spray with the can upside down to clear the nozzle? Great tip. You can do that. You can shake your can. You can spray with the paint upside down to clear the nozzle. Good tip. Hi Margie, good to see you. Well, thank you. Thank you for, you says, love your videos. Thank you. We want to keep doing them, trying to help you in this area. You know what? We've been quarantined for what, almost 4 weeks? 4 weeks now, right, April? Yeah. So the gyms are closed, but guess what? The grocery stores are not closed. The DoorDash is not closed. And, you know, Miss Liz had to go and get a new pair of Spanx for you all today. So hope you appreciate it. 4 weeks now. One other thing is they say a camera adds 10 pounds. Just to let you know, there's 4 cameras here. Let that sink in. All right, so let's stop. Let's start by cleaning our bottles. I'm going to take my granite piece. This paint is completely dry. I'm going to put it in a sink of water that I have already set. And this is a great way to kind of allow that mass to lift from the granite or from the surface. So if you're dealing with bottles, barware, anything like that, and you have a lot of pieces, you can put it in a sink of water, and that mass is going to start to separate from that surface. The other thing is you want to use, if you're in a hurry, use a plastic razor. You want to make sure that you don't scratch the surface of glass. So I'm just going to kind of rip this shrink wrap here. I'm going to take a look at our bottle. Let's see if I did a good job. All right, that looks really nice. So, looks good. All right, so we're going to take a plastic razor today. I'm going to take my pillow so we can handle it here on our pillow. Take my plastic razor. And I'm going to take some glass cleaner. Bear with me just a moment. Thank you. So you always want to make sure that you clean the surface, if you're using a razor, that you have some liquid on that surface, so you don't want to scratch your bottle. And we're going to get a towel, clean that up. So what do you think about that paint matching the text here? That looks pretty close. I mean, I could have went a little more on the cream side, but it does stand out. You can use color. The great thing when it comes to sandblasted pieces is you got the depth. So let me take this bottle. So you're not just limited to alcohol bottles. I have, I'm going to put up a picture right now. We have a friend of mine that she didn't have alcohol at her wedding. She had Martinelli's, and it was a beautiful sandblasted piece, and it was great. So you can see it there on the screen. It was just one color silver, That was one of the colors of our wedding. But every table had one of these. And it was absolutely beautiful. It just added that. It was a conversational piece, actually. And a lot of people were interested in sandblasting. They never heard of it. So it was a great piece. We're going to also talk about, you also have, I believe we have another bottle there that was a tequila bottle celebrating a 30th birthday that you can put that picture up. And it was Miss 30. So it was someone turning 30, and we decorated a tequila bottle. And that picture should come up. There you go. And what was important about that is this customer really wanted that bottle, the paint, to match the box. So you can see it's gold and almost like a copper or like a rose gold. So we used the paint to try to match the box. So now we're going to take our mask here and let's clean up our mask. I'm going to put a little bit of glass cleaner. I'm going to use a metal razor. Okay, because this mask has been sitting on the surface for almost 3 weeks since session 2. So it's going to take my razor, using some glass cleaner. It's a great thing about having a carpeted table. You can clean your razors. And this is our granite piece. And that looks great. The white stone tone paint, you can see that. So I want to thank you for joining us today, session 4. We'll be back next week with session 5. You know, I know during this time it may be a little difficult, but you know, I believe business is picking up. We are family owned and operated just like you. So we're all in this together. We want to take a look at our website, Rayzist.com. You want to take a look at our film, things that we have on sale to help you make money. Let's practice, practice, practice. Experiment with paint. Get creative with your artwork. We'll see you next week.